Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens, proudly brought to you by Fish City Hamilton. Fish City has been servicing the Waikato's fishing, boating and outdoor needs for over 30 years. And now, with the help of their online store, their great range of products and outstanding customer service is available across New Zealand. This episode, I sit down with fellow Hamilton Boys High Old Boys Foundation members Andrew Miller, Seamus Marten Ali Lennan, with the goal of highlighting the importance of such foundations and how they strengthen communities. We also discuss the events run and how they have quickly become marquee events on many social calendars, how to support, some amazing achievements and accolades of former students, and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on the Real Tales with Sweens Instagram and Facebook pages, as well as on the website realtaleswithsweens.com. Good George have a 15% discount available for all you listeners. Just use the discount code REALTALES before checking out of their online store. The link to their store is also available on the realtaleswithsweens.com homepage. Lastly, I want to say thanks to Rug, Shay and Ali for giving up their time to connect and share the purpose and vision of the foundation. So join me as we discuss the Hamilton Boys High Old Boys Foundation. Okay, so welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. We've got a bit of a different spin this evening. So we've got multiple guests, and including a very, very good podcast host in Seamus Marten. And I guess the reason that we're here tonight is we're going to dive in and talk about a foundation of which is an organisation that is supporting a school that means a lot to all of us here in the room. And we're going to sort of dive into that and not only talk about, I guess, our foundation and the importance of it, but how important foundations are in the community and, community groups and the purpose of giving back to something that is given to you. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here. It's good to see some familiar faces. We're sitting in the pavilion at Hamilton Boys High School. So we were just discussing that this pavilion that we sit in now is a bit more modern than when we were at school. But yeah, Ali tells us it was not long after I left school. I thought it was a wee while after, but maybe not. But I guess we'll go around the room. We'll start with you, Rug. So Andrew Miller, do you want to tell us your history with the school and what it is that you do now?
Yeah, man. Yeah, cheers, Sweens. Good to be here with everybody. I went to school 96 to 2000. Loved my sport was probably my main thing that a lot of my memories are connected around, and drifted away since then. Lived in Auckland, lived in the South Island, and then relocated back to the Tron 2007ish, and wanted to give back and connect back with the school. And an opportunity came up to be a foundation trustee, which I took up, and it's been 8 or 9 years. And then from a personal point of view now, we've got a business. Raw Coaching does a lot of leadership development work, which overlaps nicely with what we're doing. So I find it really, really good, really rewarding, really enjoyable. Work with a good bunch of fellas. So it's got to be
nice. Go to you now, Seamus.
So I'm an old boy from the end of 96, term 4, 1996 to 1999. I moved to Hamilton from Taupo, and I was in zone and it was either Hamilton Boys or Fairfield. And I had to come for an interview here at Boys High, and I was interviewed by the late Graham Robinson. And anyone listening who knows Robbo knows he was a pretty hard character, and he was a hard character that day. I came away from that interview. My parents came. We sat in what was Mr. Bennett's. He was the headmaster then, so we sat in that office. And I came away thinking, shit, I'm not going to get into the school and I'm going to have to go to Fairfield. And I'd only heard bad things about Fairfield. But thankfully, luckily, for some reason, I was accepted into the school. And I probably changed the course of where I was going. I think I was never a bad kid growing up in Taupo, but I was a class clown and I loved the attention. And I probably was one of those classic underachieving, could do better, could do more. And I think this school probably helped me realise that it's okay to be kind of good at something and it's okay to do something. My avenue at school was probably football. So I played for the first 11 from what was fifth form, which is now a year 11 through to year 13 consistently. We didn't win anything. There's nothing on these walls. There's nothing on these walls from those times. But if you look hard enough, you'll find 3 photos of me in the first 11 around the school. So I was at school the same time as Andrew, and I was at school the same time as you guys, you Sweens. And then when I left, I went to Waikato Uni, and I kind of found myself coming back. I would hang out with Barbs in the front office. I would go and see Mr. Tucker, who was my tutor teacher, and I loved it. And then I moved away, like Rug. I moved back to Hamilton, kind of got reconnected a little bit, and then shoulder tapped by Rug to think about coming onto the foundation and giving back, and that resonated with me. And then I was lucky enough to meet Ali, who we'll hear from in a second. And kind of go from there. And I think I'm just now starting to kind of really realise the value that the foundation has and the value that it gives back. And I hope kids that are at the school now can go through the same journey that I've been lucky enough to go down and want to give back as well. So, yeah, really, really nice.
Nice. Ellie.
Not an old boy.
What?
Not an old boy.
No, as it turns out, although I used to support HBHS, but that was in Hastings.
Yeah.
So I know we've had a few complicated early rugby games I've been to here where Hastings boys has played Hamilton boys, and I've not known what side to be on, seeing my dad's HBHS but down the line. So I'm a mum to 2 old boys and a stepmum to 1 old boy, and so it's a big part of who I've been in the last, I don't know how many years, 7, 8, 9 years. And I mean, it's obviously for me, it's a job. It's a commitment every day. But it's it's a place I really enjoy being, and I felt really lucky that my sons could come here. I don't think that was initially going to be my choice for my boys. They'd been through a pretty cool school up the road, and I think I might have chosen to take them in a different direction if their dad hadn't been an old boy here, but could not feel happier about the time that they've had here, both different kids, and both have had a spectacular education here and just loved it and built those. Like, I envy you guys. You've got this great relationship around the table and with your mates from Boys High, and my boys have that, and seeing that strong connection that they have with their schoolmates. I was thinking about it on the way here in the car. I don't think I've been back to my school more than twice in the number of years since I left there. And my parents live backing onto my high school. So that's saying something, right? That I've never actually sort of walked back into the grounds. So there's the strength of the kind of commitment I have to this school it feels really, really special. And I'm sad that I don't have it for my old high school. But yeah, the kids have it, and my husband has it, and my ex-husband has it, and all of that's kind of, that's what keeps me here. It's just a great environment, and we're lucky to have this in Hamilton, to have this kind of school, having options for great education for our boys, because we say it often, don't we, that
There's some crazy stat, right?
Yeah, 1 in 3 Hamilton men come through the school. And so for me, if the school's strong and the culture of the school's strong and the community around the school is strong, then we're all going to be strong. The wider community is going to be great. Business is going to do well. There's going to be, good men putting back into this community, even if they go away and come back like you all have. That's a real strength. So we have to be strong. The school has to be good, and in all aspects to have that kind of input. So I love it. So I'm not an old boy, but connected.
I think it's fair to say, Ali, you'd be as passionate or more passionate than anyone else who's involved with the school, about the school, and that comes through a lot. And I definitely don't think the foundation would be where it is today without you involved. Because of that passion, but also your connections through the community open a lot of doors and get us to talk to people that we simply don't know. I think that needs to be acknowledged. I think that's really cool.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's coming from a primary school that my kids were at, that was they went to Southall, so it was a great school with lots of good connections. And so coming here initially, I got a bit of a fright, really, that the connections were not as easily made necessarily. that this for me was a really natural flow on in the type of school that it is. It's a very values-based, it's about love and respect and honour, and it's a good thing to be part of. It may not have always been that the old boys that came here had a great time. A lot of the guys I talk to are like, man, I hated it, worst 5 years of my life. But they still want to be back here. They'll still be sidelining a game, and they'll still be wanting to come and watch a production or listen to the band or whatever, because they still have that connection. And so for me, it was just, it's just about how we can get you guys who are all contributing. The guys that leave the school go off and do some pretty cool things, whether they're just spectacular tradies, really good in a professional life, going off to be, there's a few superstar rugby players and rowers and other kind of athletes, but for the most part, they're going off and doing great things. So let's kind of bring them back and show them where it all started and remind them that they can give something back, later on through their career. So it has been nice to kind of connect some of those people back to the school and just demonstrate that it's not about how much you paid for your education. It's about what you got out of your education. I've said to you heaps of times, Rug, that, one of the things that I love reflecting on is Lockie, who's coming up 21, came to the school teeny tiny little blue-eyed blonde and could not have been further removed from what you might think a boys' high boy looks like. And yet he was leavers dinner, year 13, made his way to the front of the group to do the haka, tears streaming down his face and mine and his father's. I've never seen a more passionate haka presented, and all his mates. And that is something that, man, you just, I feel that, I want that. I'm absorbing it, I'm having it, vicariously through my sons, because that's what it gives, eh?
Definitely.
It's very special.
Sweens, you remember me doing that haka race, swimming sports?
Yeah.
Go on. What's your connection to the school, mate?
Mine. So I'm an old boy, 98 to 2002. Went to school with both Seamus and Rug. Played first 15 with Rug. Yeah, I loved my time at the school. Very similar story to yours, Seamus. I guess coming from a small town, being Morrinsville, I was naturally talented at sport, whatever kind of sport I took up, and I was extremely passionate about it. It was all I did. It was all I focused on. So I kind of used that to get through life, I guess, until I got to school. And to a certain extent, I probably relied on that really heavily to get me through high school as well, because, I wasn't the best in the classroom, but it was because I wasn't as passionate about it. So I didn't put the time in. So I was very underachieving in terms of my education. But what I got out of the school, sport-wise, was massive, obviously, for the career that I had with my dad, being heavily involved right from, young age and playing for Thames Valley and things like that. He was a great role model, good coach growing up. And he was hard. He pushed me really hard, which was good, which set me up really well to come here, actually, because, I just remember turning up and I'd played, Roland Mills and stuff. But when I got here and turned up for under 14 rugby trials, and I was like, what? There's 300 kids or something, all trying to get in that crazy, one team, that under 14 A team. And you have an off day. And I've seen it, I remember Jared Payne came here and he was playing number 8 for the under 15 D team. The next year, starting winger for the first 15 and top try scorer in the Super 8 competition. And we weren't strong in terms of the Super 8 competition, We're sitting in the pavilion and to get a team photo up and he got to win a national title. And there's nothing dating back prior to 2002. And a lot of these pitches, really, the schools had a massive turnaround in the sport and the development of that. But a lot of that for me goes back to all those, I guess, traits and habits that we learned through the school. And the sport's just, that's the kind of cream on the top that comes out. But it's not necessarily how hard they train or that kind of thing. It's their day-to-day life. It's the way they live. It's what's expected of them at school. I remember all my mates used to laugh at me at home when I'd come off the bus because I'd have my shirt tucked in and my back straps on, my reef sandals and my socks up in the winter. It taught discipline, and it taught, for me, what it really taught me was about belonging to something bigger. And we talk about a third of the community, in terms of the men in Hamilton, come through the school. That's what it taught me. What it really gave me was that sense of belonging to something so much bigger than myself.
You've just made me think When you guys drive past the school, maybe not so much you because you're here, and you see a kid with their socks slightly down, or their shirt out, do you think, pull your socks up, like tuck your shirt in?
Instead of pulling the car over.
Yeah, like 100.
Yeah.
It's so funny that
Yeah.
whole thing, eh? Like it.
It's a big deal. It's that whole. Just the mantra. We are a socks up, litter free school.
Yeah.
Like that just gets. I'll never forget coming in early years working here, and my boys were probably quite little, and we were petrified about them getting a detention. Like what you don't want to do is get a detention, right? And they'd never had one at primary school, so they should be fine. And coming around the corner, coming to work one day and seeing all the headmasters, deputy headmasters, all the exec team out on the field with their little yellow book, which is all the slips that they give out for litter detentions, and boys coming around the corner, round past the dairy or round past that side, and then jumping back into the bushes, pulling up their socks, getting themselves sorted, and then hearing at the staff meeting afterwards the exec just laughing about how they were desperately trying to give away as many litters as they could, get the detentions out there. And they really focus on that, like the year 9s and 10s, the thirds and fourth formers, to just nail that message home. But that's what it is, right? It's it's respect, it's you're part of something bigger. We all look the same too, which is kind of really important because that levelling out is key, when you're starting somewhere new, I reckon. There's no hierarchy other than the year 13s who might wear a slightly different uniform, but that's...
Disneyland has no one picking up rubbish because if you work at Disneyland, it's everyone's job to make it look good.
It's
like same sort of thing.
It's that same vibe, and it's clean, man. It's a clean. The poor environmentalists, you become an environmentalist in year 9 for a day. Whatever day that is you get, and they're wandering around the school begging people to drop something that they can pick up. They're picking up leaves, they're picking up, a broken sandal, from somewhere, but there's no litter. It's amazing.
Uniform. Were you still blue shirt when you were 7th form?
Yep, still blue shirt.
Oh, you would have been as well because you were behind.
I had to wear a suit and tie, whatever.
Oh yeah, were you
he's a white
sports
shirt.
captain? No. Were you
House captain.
deputy head boy? No, house
none of
captain.
that.
Did you have to wear that to school every day?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Prefects do.
prefix. Yeah,
I didn't, so I must have been the end of that generation. We were just blue polo.
yeah. Were you prefect? You were a prefect though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
King of the ball too.
I don't like talking about it, but I
yeah.
was.
I like showing the photos.
Hell, you are.
How do they judge that out of interest?
It wasn't a popularity contest. I think it was just the best looking couple.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's happening tonight.
Is
It's the
he?
ball tonight.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Tonight?
yeah.
Oh, I better go and hand over my crown. It's a long time ago, Sween.
It's the best looking couple.
It's a long
You were
time ago,
smooth.
that. Oh, yeah.
I've seen those images.
Oh, yeah. Nikki Carey, if you listen. Nikki Reese-Thomas, you are now. Never forget that. Never forget that ball.
That's enough. Enough.
Yeah,
said.
less than that.
I suppose it'd be cool to hear a little bit in terms of our kind of interconnections to each other as well. So I guess I obviously played first 15 with you, Rug, and I remember playing traditional game out here, Tauranga boys. What was the score? I can't remember the score, but I just remember the whole school chanting, "Good,
Oh,
Really?
please.
good." Yeah. It's a
happened?
special
Might have been
moment.
embellished over the years.
Yeah.
You were involved in the try too.
Yep, I was. I'd minimal though. This is your moment.
22
I've never heard
drop-
this.
Won't take long. 22 metre dropout got deflected. Hits old Rug in a bit of space with he was already hitting it at a bit of gas and ran. I'm saying 70 metres.
Yeah.
Seriously.
The whole school watching.
Game winner.
I don't think it was a game winner, but it was we won the game.
Icing on the
Yeah.
cake.
Yeah, it was 22 dropout, got deflected. I picked it up. It sort of come to me, and Rug was doing his winger's job, chasing the kick, and it kind of bounced, and I picked up and just popped it to him. And see you later.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
haven't been-
like those games.
Did you notice how he didn't mention you? I'm just saying.
No, he did.
I did at the start.
Yeah, he did
yeah.
at the start. He said I played a part.
Not a lot of credit.
But yeah, I love those traditional games, and I love coming back for them now. Grammar and is Tauranga boys still a traditional now?
Yeah, and
because it went away from it when I was. Might have been my last year.
Yeah.
I think we played on the weekend.
Yeah.
Instead of a weekday. Yeah, we did because I debuted for Waikato on the Friday and then played Tauranga
really?
boys on the Saturday. Yeah, that was a bit of a flex. Sorry about that, but
Don't worry, it was coming. Don't worry.
and then New Plymouth boys. They're still are those still the
that was
three?
just a
And then
couple of
Westlake
weeks ago.
boys now, eh? Is that
Westlake's
right?
early on in the season. Hey, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not your go-to rugby guru, but yeah, Westlake
Is that
is like
just
a
the rugby one though, or is
pre-season
it
we play
school-
football.
Yeah,
Football
football
too.
plays,
yeah.
Winter sports.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then this coming weekend, in a couple of days' time, we're playing Rotorua for the Moaska.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which is a
Have
big-
they got that at the moment?
Yeah, they may or may not have given it up as an option last year to play.
Oh.
So yeah, there might be a little bit of a vengeance match happening there. So yeah, they've got it at present.
Yeah, and I suppose like my introduction too back to the foundation was when I came back from Japan and I met with you two, and I didn't recognise you to start with because of your glasses.
Oh,
Yeah, because did you have glasses at school? Didn't they? Yeah.
He's trying
And
to
I was like
smart.
looking, I was like, that guy looks familiar. And it took me about 2 minutes, and I was like, oh, it's Rickard. And I think because you introduced yourself as Andrew as well, which probably stumped me a little
who's this
bit.
geek looking dude?
It's
Yeah.
trying to be serious.
But yeah, I suppose I ended up coming along as a guest speaker that first year and kind of just been a guest and hanging around enough that you guys eventually asked me to
Noticed you.
join. Yeah.
Might have been-
We met up for mental health reasons for a walk
That's right.
around the school. And I think you text Levers jerseys.
Yeah.
Yep. So we both rock up
Yeah.
in our Levers jerseys, and we're sitting outside B Block reminiscing about life.
Yep.
But it was sort of going, this lockdown's pretty weird, eh? This is unusual. And I wrote down like whakapapa in terms of why the school's important to me. And I hope I articulate this right, but like as a Pākehā New Zealander, I'd say my roots of connection to things aren't as deep as other cultures. And, you have things in your life that you whakapapa too, like a school or your uni or your rugby club. And Hamilton Boys High is definitely something that's given me my identity from a growth and a spiritual perspective, but also a physical perspective too. And it was quite cool in that time of uncertainty of the first lockdown that you connect with a good mate who you met at school, in your Leafers jersey.
Yeah.
That, the colours were a bit faded and the material was stretched.
It was a bit tighter.
Yeah. But I think that's pretty cool. And I guess also too, that notion of whakapapa, like connection to other old boys or other staff who you've never necessarily met, but you've got that connection back to the school is pretty cool. Something to be proud of. So that's how I know Mus. And then I've met Ali through involvement with the foundation. Really, yeah, that'd be the first and only place we met.
Yeah.
But worked pretty closely over that time,
Yeah.
which to a point of a friendship now. Like
Yeah, fully. And I think it feels like that way around the table with everybody, right? Or it's even with the newer guys, it's getting that way. I mean, for me, it was, early days being asked to be involved through David Braithwaite, who was the original initiator of the foundation in 2012. And at that point, it was probably
He was the mayor, right?
yeah,
Was he the mayor
so
for a
was his
while?
father.
Right.
There's a real and he's a man I love, who we lost last year, but he had a really strong love and passion for the school. I'd met him. He was a grandfather at the school my kids were at, so. And I knew him. I had a political life previously, so I sort of knew him through that. And he said, do you want to give us a hand? Because we're just sort of a bunch of old boys around a table, and they'd gone through that sort of that era of just simply touching shoulders of guys who were a bit well heeled that might want to give a donation back to the school. And that's really how they were operating, a really good bunch of old boys around that table. But that was it. It was maybe they'd have a presence at the odd reunion. The Old Boys Association back then was probably whittled down to about 3. Ron Weiberg, Paul Knox, David Braithwaite, and maybe a couple of others. But it was really pretty lean on the ground. And so David really, you got to give him full credit for taking the time and putting the energy into establishing this thing, and to appreciating that the school would be stronger if it had, a bit of an endowment fund behind it, a bit of financial strength behind it. So that was the thing. He said, "You want to do this thing, Ali?" And the first couple of years, we really I administered for them really, and then it's bringing on some newbies. Trent Finlay came into the mix, and some younger guys or guys that I had a bit more of an association with, and we were able to sort of say, "Should we be doing gigs?" You know, should we be getting people back in the room, back around the school? Because the reunion model, it's a little faded. You know, people who come to reunions generally a little bit further down the track, maybe my age, clearly, you know, just a little bit further on from where you're at. But, you know, the reunion kind of market was not working overly well. And also you only have an opportunity, you know, 50 years, 75 years, 100 years, those are the real big ones. So we made that decision around the table pretty early on to get some younger guys around the table and maybe do some events. So out of that came things like the golf and what was a luncheon, which you were involved with initially, Sweens. And now, you know, we're at this, you know, it's a bit of a rock star thing for us. It's a big thing on our calendar. But yeah, just being able to connect guys back to something in a reunion fashion, but make it annual. You know, come all the time, lads. Yeah.
It's a really interesting point because I think for me, as someone who didn't play the two traditional sports in the school, cricket and rugby, when you left school and you thought about the term old boys, my immediate thought was, oh, that's the rugby club or the cricket club.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't really fit into that model, so I don't really know how I connect back. And I probably had this idea that that's where all of the old boys went, which is totally
not
the case.
You know, 30, 40 years ago, maybe.
Totally.
You know, like there were definitely an era of boys leaving here and going to play for Old Boys Rugby Club, you know, at different points in time. But yeah, no, you're right. And it's how do you create that sense of what an old boy is across the board, you know. So I guess that was why we decided we'd start running we wanted to start talking to old boys, dealing with we had a great database, but with lots of names, but very little contact details. And we're still, you know, that's still a thing that's hard to grow. Social media's changed a bit of that, I guess. But yeah, it's just been about connecting those boys, bringing them back for reasons other than to watch the first 15 play or to hear about how the rowers did at Māori, you know. And there's a lot of great material, you know, like it's not I know you guys all think Boys High, you think sport. I don't, you know. I think Boys High, great, strong academic choice for my sons. And they could have gone anywhere and they came here because I knew this is where the money was in terms of academics. So you know, we have some incredible kids coming through the school who are winning world, you know, top in the world. Every year there's somebody who's top in the world for something through those annual, we would have been school CNUE exams for us, but, you know, those big exams and Cambridge exams and scholarships and stuff. You know, Prime Minister's prizes for science are going to our kids. You know, it's pretty cool. And then just hearing what some of the old boys are doing, you know, being able to open those conversations and some cool stuff. Guys that are involved with, you know, the tiles that were on the first NASA rockets and crazy cool stuff that boys from little old Boys High have ended up going on to do. Yeah. So yeah,
that notion of fuck up is an interesting one, because I think back to when I just left school and Sween's flexed on it, and I'm gonna jump on it. But when he played when you got called up to the Waikato squad from school, I remember feeling a sense of pride because I was like, man, that's awesome. He was like a couple of years behind me at school, and now he's doing this. It's the same when you talk about Braithwaite. I'm like, that's right. He was the mayor of our city. It's the same when I think about other people that I went to school with, like John Austin, he is now, but he was Jonathan Ho, who was head boy in 99, who was the lead singer of 48 May, which was a massive band in the early 2000s. And there's all these kind of weird little connections that you're right. Like when you get people in a room together that have all been to the school, all that kind of stuff about who you are and it all kind of fades away, and there's just this weird kind of connection. Like I buzzed out when, Scott McLeod, Stormy McLeod came in and gets his haircut at Murray Rose Barbers, where I get my haircut. And I remember thinking, like, just being kind of in awe of this guy. But then it's kind of like, I've seen him now at the foundation dinner, and I feel comfortable enough to be like, oh, hey, Stormy, how you going? Like, you know what I mean? It's a weird thing.
And there's a generational connection. Like we had a couple of years ago, we had Chris Thompson, who's an incredible musician.
I feel like he was in my tutor class.
No, he's a lot older than you, but
must have been his son.
His wife's a
Didn't
similar
he
age.
write You're the Voice?
He wrote You're the Voice. You know,
John
John Farnham. You're the Voice.
Yeah. You guys have told me that before.
Yeah. We inducted him into the Hall of
good's
Fame.
that?
Yeah, in 2019, and I mean it was epic Hall of Fame event. It was the last one we had, unfortunately, because of COVID so far. But you know, my kid got to play guitar and sing backing vocals. The school did the voice singing behind him. He's written something. He wrote Toxic, Britney Spears.
Wow.
There are those are the only two that come to my mind, but there are like hundreds songs. He lives in Belgium. He's an incredibly prolific Manfred Mann. Is that what the band was? He's a prolific writer of music, and he's an old boy. And so, like, my kid, who's 21, is connected to this guy who's, I'm going to get it wrong, but well in his 60s.
Yeah, he wasn't in my tutor class.
Probably a little later. There's a connection there because they're old boys, right? Like, there's never the twain shall meet, but they're old boys. And that's what you're saying, being
definitely
impressed by Stormy and Swains.
Yeah.
There are more.
Yeah.
Great
But
guys.
also, like, you talk about that reunion model, like having the foundation or luncheon, which is now a dinner. That's like all of my friends that I went through school of, like, life gets so busy.
Yeah.
And you both talked about it, both move away, get jobs. I got into rugby, traveling, you're here, there and everywhere. Social media gives you that real surface kind of connection. I think it's like a false kind of connection. You feel like, I feel like I've been, catching up with Rug or Seamus because I've seen this, that and the other, but it's not till you sit down like this and you're like, oh man, I miss my mates. Like, I miss sitting down, talking, having a beer at the foundation dinner and getting, Will Downey bought a table. That's all my year, all those boys. And then those guys all coming together and you get around and all the old jokes come out from when you're, 20 years ago, we were at school now, or next year it'll be 20. Oh no, this year, 20 years, yeah. So it's like time goes like that. It goes so quick. And if you're relying on reunions, like that just doesn't happen. Yeah.
The dinner just creates that opportunity, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's exactly what it's become for so many boys, which is why
it's a common theme now, right? It's almost like it's a must appointment. It's like what do you call it? It's a must do appointment every year because yep, my table of mates are going to be there. I'm a bit sad because I don't have that many from my year 99 that are going there, and I don't know whether that's just kind of
where they've ended up.
Yeah, possibly. Although they're kind of in with the 98 crew, that loud table, those two loud tables.
I don't know who you're talking about.
You had to move them, Ali.
Nobody I have to take out.
You had to move them right to the end because they were right at the front for so long.
They may have asked to be moved to the back of the room. Please don't put us at the front anymore, Ali. It's embarrassing. We're not reliable.
But you're right, Sweens. That's what it is. It's kind of like an anchor point where yep, it's going to be a room full of kind of people that I can reconnect with. And it's amazing. You bump into people that or you've worked with or you've interacted with, and you're like, shit, I didn't know you were. I was class of 91 or whatever it is. Phenomenal. The golf day is another one as well, where people come out of the woodwork, which is another one of our the foundation's major events of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, easy fun gig to be along at too. And another one where they're not necessarily all old boys. A lot of the guys are just guys who employ old boys or work with old boys, or that harking back to that whole thing about strong community, that they come along to support us. We've got an amazing relationship with the guys at Schick. Like Cantabrians, but we don't hold that against
We're happy
them.
to adopt old boys.
We're happy to adopt them.
If you grew up somewhere else, you
fully.
come to our
We'll
stuff.
keep you. We've got a few, right? I say, who are our best non-old boys. That we just keep in the loop because they're just amazing guys. Yeah, good guys, and just wanting to be part of something. Hey.
Yeah, and then on that too, like talking about adopting old boys, but we've by no means adopted him. But Daryl Headley at Good George. So when I reached out to him about working with us at the foundation and being a part of the golf day, and that his boys at St. Paul's, which is full on, like as far back as the school goes, rival school, especially when it comes to sport. And his boy, I think, might be on the fringe of the first 15 and that, but. We have this conversation. I know this about his son. I'm like, oh, look, reaching out, And he's just, because of that impact it has on the community, didn't hesitate. He's like, I know my boys at St. Paul's, but the school has such a big impact on the community. It's such a big school. It's great what you guys are doing and giving back. Yep, happy to help out. And he just knows that for the better of both his business and our organisation, that it works and it fits.
He's also Pukekohe boys, isn't it? Like Pukekohe High School, I think.
Yeah, I think
and so
so,
he's like he feels more at home at boys. So.
Yeah.
But I can say that because I'm a mother of a St. Paul's girl a couple of years ago. But I mean, that's amazing. It's those guys like the Good George guys and the Schick guys, and lots of other companies that have jumped on board and been alongside us for that very reason. So it's wicked.
To that sentiment too, going back not that long ago, being from Hamilton probably wasn't something you were hugely proud of, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was Bogan town where STDs came from, sort of thing. And I think this is a good time to be putting a lot of energy into the likes of a Momentum, because the appetite is there from the business community to make Hamilton even more awesome than what it is. And you look at just the businesses that have grown lately, the infrastructure, the cafes, the restaurants, the amount of development work that's going on here, like Hamilton.
Well, there's a lot of national headquarters starting to look here as well as being a place where they want to kind of set up shop.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's because of us?
Possibly.
We've moved that along. you
Possibly,
reckon?
yeah.
Nice.
Well, I mean, that pride is there as a parochialism. Like, we want Hamilton Boys High School to be strong. We obviously want the community to be strong, and we wish every other school well, just as much. You know, if we could support them in any other way.
High tide rises all boats, eh?
Kia
Yeah.
ora. That's very wise.
That's very wise.
Sensei.
I'm going to try and bring another
Sensei
nautical saying into the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, that's like talking about that though, and like the importance of foundations like what we have. There's countless throughout the community that support, you know, sports teams, schools, business, or whatever it is. Like there's so many people that are so giving of their time to something that they feel connected to. And I guess for us, like it's the school because of what the school's given us or our family.
Yeah.
Or our husband or our ex-husband.
Don't keep mentioning it. I'm stopping it too. Yeah. This one's a keeper.
Yeah. So you touched a little bit there on David at the start. Can you just give us like a real, I guess like a detail of how he actually started it? Because you kind of brushed on it there a little bit.
Yeah, I think there was the Old Boys Association itself was failing, and well, not failing. It had grown tired. And so David came up with the idea that he might like to put an entity together that would create an endowment fund, and the endowment fund would then go on to support the school. And we're different than in some other school environments because we're not completely linked to the school. So a lot of foundations sit under the school structure. The board of trustees and a foundation might sit underneath the foundation. Underneath the board.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. Is that very common in public schools, like Boys High, or is it more
No,
private school?
there are a few that have them, but no, not common. And so definitely not. Definitely kind of hard to get off the ground for that reason. And I don't think the school was comfortable necessarily initially or excited about the idea of it. But yeah, he obviously put the energy in, and he had such charisma and such mana really that. Who's going to say no? Who's going to say no to the likes of David Braithwaite? So he got it started and gathered some really good men around the table, and they obviously created a deed, got the structure organised, and as I said, they really focused on those early years of simply hitting up well-established, well-heeled old boys to make a contribution. Mike Pohio was involved, Adrian Patterson, Paul Street, guys who are really, really focused on the Hamilton community anyway, and put their energy into it that way. So it was established as a very formal trust. They met sort of 6 times a year, and it was all about who they were going to go and have a coffee with next and get some money out of, essentially. So it was never ever about, it was never even really about reunions, and it certainly was really just a financial structure set up to create an endowment fund to put some funds in behind the school. So the idea was they simply would work separate from the school, really, just get this significant endowment fund happening and be able to then go to the school and say, here we are, we've created this fund which has a great income, how would you like to use the funds? And that's great, but there was very little structure around what they were doing, and they were, I guess, meeting as a committee and a bunch of guys and having a chat and making some decisions, and maybe things might not happen between that meeting and the next. And so then they sort of brought me on to do the administrative stuff, really. So, and as I said before, it just then lent itself to, I mean, my working life or my history has been in a lot of event-based sort of stuff. So naturally for me, it was pretty exciting and pretty fun to get back into doing some big gigs. And that's where we, alongside Trent and David Kerr's obviously got a big catering company in town, and Kerr and Ladbroke, and so they were alongside us. It just seemed like a natural fit for the three of us to then take it somewhere a little bit different with the other trustees around the table at the time, and now you guys. Yeah, young blood.
Yeah, and then when was the kind of shift, I suppose, from the Old Boys Club, because it's not really a sustainable model, right?
No,
like
it's
how
not.
It was.
So we absorbed the Old Boys Association. So I think they had $3,000 in the bank or something, and we just absorbed it really, and decided that it was going to be then our obligation to make sure that communication and contact and connection with Old Boys, was taken care of by us. And that's probably a little different from a normal foundation model. Often the foundations inside schools are set up, how it initially was, with a bit of more of a highbrow, overarching kind of umbrella type thing. We just decided that ours was going to be a bit more interactive, a bit more involved, and really about generating connection, because we've got this amazing product to sell. Like, as I said before, not everybody who was here loved it in their time here, but what we have now, this package, what's being offered here at school is really saleable. Like, it's a pretty wicked package. It's easy to, even if you hated it here, you've got to be happy that you're an old boy, because it's a great place to be connected to. So it was really saleable. So talking to people about their time here, getting them back inside the school, running the Hall of Fame, which is something we took up pretty quickly so that we could start to laud some of the good dudes that we had coming out of here and build our profile. So the thing for us, probably the hardest part, was kind of just getting that profile out there, hey, Rag, like getting people to understand that we were here, we were doing something, which is why the events happened. Because get on a stage and start shouting, making some noise, running a good gig, having a great dinner, and, a few drinks and ending up in town, which is how it started off, was enough to get people talking about the fact that we're doing something. And not that that's what it was about, but just that we're here and behind the school and we're supportive, and you're welcome back anytime. That Robbo was great for that stuff. How much do we wish he was still here? That he would ring me when I first started. I'd get a phone call or a text message at like 6:15 in the morning, and I'd think, oh, am I late? It's got about 6. I've got kids to get to school. And but he was just so passionate. You could never beat him to school. He was here at 6:30. And for the first couple of years, I'd feel really bad that I'd missed his phone calls. And it was always just something. He had some idea about getting somebody back in, or letting me know about somebody he bumped into in Whangarei or in Invercargill or in Wellington over the weekend or whatever. And always looking for an old boy opportunity. And he's the other person who fed into my energy around what we might do as a foundation, because he was just passionate with a capital P about this place, wasn't he? So I learned later that everybody missed phone calls from Robbo at 6:15, and I didn't need to worry about it.
We've worked really hard though to make it really accessible to reconnect back with the school, because sometimes when you leave, or when you're here, I don't think you appreciate how cool, whatever school you went to, how cool and special being at school actually is until you've left. And often you think, oh, I've left that school, it's not mine anymore. And so we've tried really hard with the likes of the dinner or golf or whatever else is going on, come and have a barbie to watch a game or whatever, to come back that it is still your school. And I think too, the other thing, when you were talking earlier, Sweens, I think the school has evolved quite a bit in quite a few different ways. Like, I think the environment the school creates now, because year 2000, it was probably, I'd call it a traditional all boys state school where like sport was really prioritised, rugby was really prioritised, maybe rowing. And now I think the environment the school creates is something to be even prouder of. Like it is very welcoming. They do a great job at creating that safe environment that allows young men to flourish. So as you say, Ellie, even if your time here back in the day wasn't the most enjoyable or most memorable, by reconnecting with the school, you're contributing to it being even better again in the future, which I think is really important. So yeah, it's still your school even when you're gone.
There's probably also a misconception out there as well that because the school is so successful, or is successful and is what it is now, that it doesn't need the support still of what a foundation can provide. And maybe that's kind of the thought of some old boys that have left, and they see the success and they go, well, I don't really need to give anything back because the school's fine on its own, which isn't necessarily the case, right? Because there's some quite niche things that the foundation is able to support that the school may not support as well, or there are kids that are going through hardship that want to come to the school that can be supported by the foundation, which are a couple of the kind of initiatives that we entail, right?
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're all sort of a lot of people are happy to put the resources into supporting other clubs outside of a school environment, or You know, and there's a big ask always for your resources, but to put something back in here Ministry of Education covers lots. The headmaster does an incredible job of I'm going to say robbing Peter to pay Paul, just making sure there are enough funds to cover everything that needs to happen inside the school. But we recently have had a grants round. We as a foundation give some grants to the school, and one of the things they would quite like is some extra sets of calculators in the classroom. We've done that in the past. It's little things that when you've got kids for whom mum and dad are putting a good solid meal on the table and at night is a big deal and a big ask, you're not going to get the scientific calculator for the kid to go to school. So, things like that we can do. The trade scholarships is another thing that I'm super proud of. Like, there's lots of really good scholarships out there for kids leaving school, going off to academia or, to play rugby somewhere. That's covered. But, doing the trade scholarships that we've introduced a few years ago, I think is brilliant, that those guys that are going and wanting to buy some tools so they can be a sparky or a civil mechanic, some sort of mechanic or whatever, that's wicked. That's an option for them to get a grant from us to move on and buy some kit to get started. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like how cool is that opportunity too? Because school's not for everybody.
Totally,
like not everybody gets the most out of school for whatever reason that is, whether it's opportunity or what. And then how cool that you can be still supported by like that into like a trade. That's wicked.
Yeah, and it helps to bring all those kids back. They were all, you guys around the table had some amazing times on the rugby field and football field and cricket field, but not everybody did. So that's not necessarily what their connection is. I remember ringing up an old boy, Ian McRae, to let him know he was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame quite a few years ago, and he has a company called Orion Health, which is a significant business. And he said, "Have you got the right Ian McRae?" When I told my mum, she said there were two of you at school with a similar name, dear, and he was the kind of kid at school who he said, he actually turns out he was wildly dyslexic, I think, and he said, I was the most caned third former, and so his time at school was horrendous, but his connection to the school is real, and there are kids here who are not making the memories that you might have made it in your time at school, but that doesn't mean that we can't be there to, give them as much opportunity.
Yeah.
Just, be along and support.
And then those kids too, that school's not their thing and they end up going off early and getting a trade. They're the first ones not to come back.
That's right.
But by the foundation being there to support them into that, they're like, well, that's pretty cool. Like the school actually gave me a chance,
Just crosses into that.
It's an easier way to keep them back involved,
Sometimes you don't know the power or the significance of what you give back, whether it's time or money. But also too, sometimes you don't always know how to as well. And that's like, if anyone would want to get in touch with Ali and say, look, hey, is there, we can take on an apprentice, for example, or any way that they could help. Like, there's something in here that we think there might be alignment with the school.
Time,
talk
resources,
to you and
expertise.
You'll make it work somehow, or you'll find a way. Exactly.
We're often being asked just to connect some old boys back when there's a leadership week or there's
Work experience day.
Getting people out there and getting those businesses back in to talk to kids. So if you're a chef, you're interested in food, or hairdressers, whatever it is, just getting there's someone. That's why the Hall of Fame is so cool, because there's someone in the room who looks like you. We've had Arama Kukatai a few years ago who was a boy brought up in Naroa here, who had to be first up to get the right sandals to get to school, and there are boys in the school hall listening to that story going, well, that's me now, and he's gone on to be a lawyer and living in the States and doing some incredible stuff. That's the cool part of the story, right? Finding someone that you connect to. But in terms of giving back, we're really obviously looking for a whole bunch of things, aren't we? We're looking for an opportunity to bring people old boys back into the school, come to our events, come to the things that are happening at the school, the games on the weekends and stuff, where old boys are always welcome. But, we've got lots of ways to give. We've got this 2012 club, which is that sort of cool way to do some regular giving. And I guess we can share that information attached to this. But, there's a real easy way to just give a few bucks every month out of your... And it's interesting to see how that's played out, right? That when we initially started to think about a regular giving campaign, we thought that, again, that the guys who would give money are the guys who are a little bit further down through their lives, but it's the young guys. It's the young guys who are giving $20 a month to support the school that they, they're probably going to the outback, and then whatever's left over is coming to us. Hopefully, they're also paying their rent. But those are things that work really nicely, and they're fresh. They are still in love with the school, or recently in love with the school, so that's kind of cool. As well as I guess coming along to our events or making other kinds of donations or time resources of getting guys back in here, getting old boys back in to talk to the current students. It's wicked.
It's a really good point you make, because quite often, I guess, when you think foundation, you do think finance, you do think, and for some people, it's not. There isn't that disposable income, but like you say, it could be time, it could be an opportunity, it could be anything. There's so many different ways that people can give back and connect back in, and I think that's probably one of the strongest messages that we can kind of share here is that if you think there might be something there, get in touch, get in contact.
So in terms of like how the foundation gives back, can we share share that fully, like in terms of the different avenues and some of the cool things that we've been able to do?
Yep, what we do.
Yeah.
So like I said before, we're trying to build that endowment fund. That's part of it. So it's ticking away at getting money into that account. We invest that money. It goes through Craig's investment partners, and they are putting that money wisely for us, and tricky in the last couple of years. It's like your KiwiSaver, don't look at it, but we're doing pretty well with our investments, and that's growing. And so, our goal is to get $1 million and more into that account, and therefore the income from that will be able to be spent every year back into the school. So there's some significance there. Plus, it's still sitting there, right, as a fund to be used at any point in time or leveraged against, or whatever the school might want to do. And then we've sort of developed this grants program as well, grants and scholarships. So one of the other reasons for doing the events was to get cash in fast, to be able to get some decent bucks that we could start splashing around at the school, so that people knew we were doing something, so we had a bit of presence, so we're visible.
Yep.
So the scholarships, the trade and the tertiary scholarships. So year 13, 7th formers apply for that in their last year of school. We're looking for guys, not necessarily that have been incredible students, but they're guys who've got a sense of community. They might have done something else in the wider community, hopefully. Being a sports referee, or, being involved with the Leo Club or anything like that. Doing something that gives back to some other area of the community, and they apply, and we give those scholarships out. So they go off to uni, or they go off to their trade. They've got $1,000 in their pocket, and we want to hopefully grow that. That's something that we're really keen on, seeing more of those scholarships. Obviously, there's always we're talking a lot about around the foundation table at the moment about how we could contribute to some other kind of, I don't want to say hardship fund, but somewhere else. There are kids who are in need of paying the basics. It's not expensive to come here as a school. The fees are not massive, but when you've got kids who are involved in lots of things, it sure adds up. So we have the scholarships, and then we have a grants program. So we give back money twice a year, really to the teachers, for child-focused or student-focused outcomes, and that can be anything. We've done plankton testing kits that the science department wanted, VR viewers, virtual reality viewers. That they. Whatever they do with those, I don't know.
Did we do a drum kit once?
We did, yeah.
Full
we did some
percussion kit.
orchestral drums, which are
Yep.
primo, yeah.
Yep.
It's not always just also through the money that we give, but the connections. So, we've been able to get kilts for the pipe band, through some pulling a few strings. We've built some pretty big facilities here at school with the help of people that we've connected through the foundation to the school, directed them in the right direction, built that beautiful
Leonard
hockey
Gardner and
turf.
Foster's.
Yeah, Leonard Gardner at Foster's, and the guys at Schick, Scott Brownlee and those guys at Schick. And, just connecting the right people, so having those conversations and letting them know that we need that kind of help, that that it's not just a state school that can exist, hand to mouth. But the grants rounds are great. Just an opportunity we've built climbing, help put money towards climbing walls, and there's a little bit of sports equipment, but there's just
Well, it's got to fit. A few main criteria is either be academic, cultural, arts, or sporting. They're the main ones.
Yep.
And be of a material nature, so that more than one year level can benefit from it,
Oh,
rather
yeah.
than experience. Rather than that team's going.
Yeah,
on a
we're not
trip.
paying for trips to Samoa or
Yep.
anything like that.
Yeah.
We're paying for stuff that can be used, held onto inside the school, maintained and looked after, and have a life.
Yeah.
And
Touch lots of students.
there's a thought now as well to kind of, from a foundation perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to move towards kind of special interest areas almost to kind of to look at old boys or people that have left the school that might have a particular interest and fundraise for projects to help restore the gully, for example, to help with something particular, just to capture those people that might have drifted through that aren't really super connected to a sport or to music or something, but to then pull them back in to say, hey, this is something that actually interests me, and I'd love to support that with the school.
Yeah, we're really keen to hear from anybody who's got a particular area of interest that they could add to, whether it's the Gully project is sort of about to be launched, which is super exciting. You know, that gully, to a lot of you boys, well, I know what happened down in that gully. and you know, like it's a thing. It's a boys' high thing. But, you know, there's a lot of energy going to go into that area. It's going to become a different kind of learning environment. You know, an environment where we weave that in through our curriculum. There'll be biology stuff happening down there and the whatever's growing in that pond. The building guys will build, you know, in that area and put some real resources into it. But, you know, it's like, you know, there's work happening with cricket nets around the back there. There's always stuff happening. There'll be stuff in the future with performing arts, with a marae coming in the next couple of years. So, you know, it's always looking for, if you've got some skills or some expertise or a passion in that area, we're going to want to hear from you, because, you know, we can't do all that digging ourselves to find out what floats your boat. There's that sailing reference.
Got the other nautical reference in there.
But put your hand up, you know, give us a call, and you'd be, you know, we had a guy a few years ago who actually was a boat builder, or he painted boats, and, you know, he made contact and came and did a bit of a module or a workshop with the boys here, you know, showing when we were building lots of boats in New Zealand before COVID. You know, it's stuff like that. It's getting that intellectual connection into the school as well. So, yeah, touch base, foundation at hbhs.school.nz. All my numbers everywhere on the internet for all good reasons. Obviously, our social media pages as well. So, you know, we'll put some links alongside this, I guess, and let you know how to make those donations through our platforms that we've got.
Most people will give if they're asked, and they can connect to it, and it's an easy to understand story. It's not something we've been awesome at, is actually asking people. But also too, yeah, exactly, like we invite your approach and contribution. If you're passionate about something and you've got an idea, then certainly get in touch with Ali.
Or it could just be skills. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a middle-aged woman trying to learn social media stuff. So, you know, it could be that there's some guys out there, and that's what you guys have brought to the table, you know, the marketing expertise. Here we are doing a podcast. I didn't even know these things existed. Not true. I listened to both of your podcasts as research. But, you know, it's what can you bring to the table as trustees too, right, in the future. So we're always looking to roll over the trustees, keep new blood coming on board. So if you want to be around this table, it's fun and it's an opportunity to bring your skills back to this group.
I think what's really exciting is things like the dinner this year sold out in record time, right?
Seriously. It was the longest 38 hours of my life. I sat there that night thinking, I'll put it live now, you know, at night, one night on whatever it was, a Wednesday night. And man, just last year was like that too. The last 2 years through COVID have sold really, really quickly. And we were nervous, weren't we, Rag, around how the dinner would sell, because people's, you know, we're all in this crazy time. And both of those sold. The first one we had to move like 4 times. The second one moved, I think, once. But, you know, being able to put a gig like that out this time around, and seriously within 38 hours, the online platform that we use for ticketing rang me the following day after it sold out and said, I think there's a mistake, Ali. It says on the platform that you've sold out, but we haven't sold that many through the platform. I'm like, man, I know, because I had guys who were out for dinner ringing me saying, I haven't got my credit card on me. I need to use my work credit card, or can you save me a table? And it was, can you invoice me? And I think back to back hours of just invoicing and getting these tickets out and selling. And man, can we get another table in that room? So yeah, 360, biggest room yet. We might need a bigger venue at some point in time, but, you know, biggest room, and yeah, 38 hours, just insane. So, and that's a cool position to be in too, right? You know, having old boys emailing me in the last couple of days saying, can I get a couple of tickets? It's like, snooze you lose, you've got to be there on day one, you know?
Well, it's such a good event, you know, and like purely the event's awesome. emceed by Seamus last year, which I loved, and he pulled out his. I'm trying to remember what it's called when we leave school. What is
the testimonial.
Testimonial, and he read that out, and it summed you up to a T.
Yeah, it's pretty
epic.
Susan reckoned it was the first one she ever did, but yeah, she'd been from A to M, so yeah. It's great those little little connections though, right? Those little things that you can pull back and drag you back in are pretty special, and I think it's great that there is that excitement and anticipation for the dinner. Like I think it bodes well for what we're trying to do. And to Rug's point, we probably just need to do a little bit better job of asking, of encouraging, encouraging more people to.
Which is partly what this is about, right? It's about sharing what it is we actually do. It's not just beers in the pavilion.
Yeah. Well, this is like a great tool for us to be able to use to, whether people listen to my podcast or not. I'm not sure if a lot of my podcast listeners are going to be, connected into Boys High, and we're going to get a flow on from that. But it's a great tool for us to be able to push out there and say, hey, this is what we're about. Yeah. Have a bit of a listen, see if it fits with you, see if it's, something you want to be involved with. And the real standout for me, and I didn't even know it was a fact until you mentioned it last year, but that a third of all men in Hamilton go through Hamilton Boys High. Yeah. I'd never ever thought of it like that. I knew it was a big school, but when you said that and I sat there and you talk about, community, and even just from a business point of view, it makes sense to support it, right? Because if you've got a business based here in Hamilton, like you want that to thrive, it's like, I should probably, support that school because chances are,
we need that school to be good.
Right?
And that has to, we underestimate the importance of that. And the school will face change in the next 10, 15 years, right? There'll be some change in the executive at some point in the future, and we need to make sure that the community is well and behind the school to make sure that it remains strong, that the ethos is strong, and that because it's really important, how we fit inside Hamilton and what Hamilton gets from us. Yeah,
because the event in itself is awesome, but you throw that connection on top of it, right? And that that creates the mayhem and people ringing you up wanting to get tables and tickets.
Yeah,
I think one of the exciting extensions as well, and you touched on it earlier, is those traditional exchanges, and it's the chance to connect with people that have left Hamilton. But Auckland Grammar is a great example of the biggest city in New Zealand. It's an annual exchange, and trying to link in with the people that are in Auckland and kind of build that network. Tauranga is another one. New Plymouth is another one I know as well. I think that next step as well of recognising that, Hamilton's the centre of our universe, but we've got old boys that are all over the place as well.
Just take it a bit wide, and that'll happen, won't it? That's beginning to happen now that we take that step out of our own little backyard and run some gigs outside of that, run some events at those other places. I mean, that's that's why we're getting the Will Downies buying a table from New Plymouth and the Mark Hornerbrooks and the Auckland Old Boys coming back down. We have a guy every year now who buys a table from Hong Kong. He rings me every time and buys a table. He can't come, but he puts all his mates and whānau around that table.
How good, eh?
That's wicked, That's every year. And this is probably the third or fourth year that he's done that. He's also, on a couple of occasions, donated a table for other people to come along. And that's him understanding that, this is a significant gig. It's a long way from Trent Finlay and I in the first year pretty much ringing our mates and begging them to buy a table. So it's like, oh, come on now, you'll love it. Seriously, it's good people.
What year was the first one?
2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I must have come to the second one then, did I?
Yes.
Yeah, because I came back from Japan 2017.
Yeah, you were 2017. Yeah. So,
it's amazing the bequests as well, eh? The people that have written the school into their will. And donate after they depart is great. Crazy.
We had an amazing one last year, didn't we? Bob Wilson, and this is incredible. He's lived most of his life in the UK. He's obviously an elderly gentleman, and he left many, many, many years ago, having done a degree at Auckland and then down south somewhere, I think, and he became an archaeologist. And you guys won't remember because you had colour TV, but when I was a kid, there was a show called Time. It was presented by Baldrick.
Time Team,
yeah. by Baldrick, you know? You watch the reruns though,
It's
right?
an old song.
So,
Yeah, I'm
you
an
know,
old
your mum and
song.
I could watch that together. But
Same generation.
But he was on that show. Like, he went on to be an archaeologist and went into that show and never came back to New Zealand a couple of times. Obviously, he has family here, so obviously loved the school. He's a man who never had a family. He obviously ended up with a sizable estate. Gave bequests to something like 31 different organisations through the UK and one in New Zealand, and we were the one. And so we had this beautiful, there's actually going to be a story about him in the newsletter that the Maoris and Archives and I have just put together, but he gave us a $32,000 bequest to his old school, because and we've had his beautiful sister Jan and telling us all and showing us all the old material from him, and that's not infrequent. We had a beautiful bequest from Graham Robinson's family, or from Graham Robinson a few years ago. One we would have liked to have waited much longer to receive, but you know, that's amazing, and we have a number of old boys who we know have written us into their will, and it's a beautiful, generous part of building a legacy, isn't it, to be able to leave something like that behind to the next generation of Hamilton boys.
You know, talking about Robocop he was to us. He was. How different is that relationship once you leave the school to the teachers? Like, it blew my mind. I left school and all of a sudden they're talking to me like we're friends. I was like, oh, didn't you hate me? Hey, it's so different. Like, it must be. Yeah, I don't know. Did they just flick a switch when we walk out the door? It's like, oh well, don't have to look after him anymore. And
it's funny, isn't it?
yeah, because I would have swore a lot of my teachers really didn't like me, because I wasn't that engaged in the classroom, you know. But then,
I'm really happy to go
come
through
back
and look
into
at the
the
records
school.
and find out whether they did or didn't. We have really good archives.
Yeah. But then coming back into the school and I suppose, you know, you talked about you and how you felt when I debuted. I felt like I took so many people from the school on that journey with me.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm extremely lucky that I had that opportunity, and the school was a huge part of giving me that opportunity to get to that position. But you kind of, you know, when you're in the moment, you don't tend to take that in so much. But coming back to school always kind of grounded me a little bit, because you come in and I would just come in and it's, you know, hey, Mr., hey, Mrs., Sir, the rest of it. And then they would start rattling off all this information about, you know, I love that game and this game. And then you're like, oh, you're actually watching? Like, and then you get that real like, oh, whoa, that's quite cool. Like, my teachers are actually watching me on TV when they sat there in class and told me that I'd never make it. And I needed to focus on English. But, you know, like that, it's quite amazing, that transition when you go out of school, and that relationship side of things with your old teachers. And I suppose I'm lucky because I kept quite a really strong connection to the school once I left. I pretty much came back and helped coach the first 15 my first 2 years out of school, which was interesting. And when I look back at it now, I was like, why was I in that position? Because I was only a kid. I was only 18, 19. Why was I involved?
Who was your coach?
Nigel Hotham's first year.
Oh, really? He's
so
elderly, eh?
Yeah, so
How is he still here?
I think a big part of that was he probably realised that I was a pretty heavy part of rugby. I was looking at the New Zealand Schools jersey up there, and my name's up the top. I think I was the first New Zealand Schools player for 53 years from the school. And then from then, we've had players in the team every single year, bar one, and that was Severice's year. And he should have been in there. Let's be honest.
He's a performer, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, like, you know, there was a big shift and change in terms of the sport of rugby when Nigel came along. But he was obviously smart enough to realise that, okay, I need to learn what the school is about. And he had me talk to the team about playing St. Paul's before they played St. Paul's. And we never beat St. Paul's all 3 years that I played. We drew.
Wow.
We drew Rugs year. Yep, we drew the final and kept the Tricolor trophy because we had it. But I never beat them. Yeah. And we dominated the Waikato squad with players, but they just had our number. And they were a good team. They had some good players in there. And it was a big deal, like a really, really big deal. And it pained me that we couldn't beat them. But then I went back and I spoke to the team before they played St. Paul's. And my brother was in that team. He's 2 years younger than me. and they won. And I remember crying on the sideline. And I'm not even, involved or in the team, but that's what it kind of meant. And, like Nigel, he's a smart man, he obviously realised that, okay, I need to find out what the school's all about, what makes them tick. And then, in those first couple of years, I must have played some part in that for him. I've never asked him, but
it's an interesting point. Like the teachers are just as proud as the students, I feel, to be teaching here, to be part of the fabric of the school, and the amount of old boys that come back and teach as well.
Yeah, we've got 4 new ones this year. We were just talking about that. We've got
Johnny Taruki.
Caleb Shepherd, obviously, Olympian, gold medalist, in fact, isn't he? No, yes, Olympian. Silver, I think the girls got silver. Patrick Harrison and someone else that'll come to me. But, 4 old boys have returned, to teach at the school, which is impressive, mate. Impressive, it's a, and there's lots of other old boys here, plenty, who are teaching on the staff. So, it's obviously that sense of coming home for those guys, like it must be, it's interesting. Cam Morby's here. So his brother Josh just made the Mighty All Blacks. Yeah. It's interesting.
Often your wisdom takes a while to develop, if it develops at all. Because when you are a young person or young man, you're maybe not that appreciative of what you've got. And I think it is upon reflection where you go, shit, I had some pretty darn good teachers who were just really good people. And it's possibly not a role that receives a lot of thanks or appreciation. It might do, but I'm not sure that it would. It's not until you leave and go back and go, actually, when I think of the characters, I think of other students who were like absolute characters. I think there's something about being a young Kiwi bloke and the sense of humour and the uniqueness that environment creates. Like, you're just with a bunch of eggs, Monday to Friday. I remember every interval, Rusi Rātuki would be the courier driver who would come up here and we'd all be out the front of the school. Every interval, we're like, Rusi, he's back, welcome back, mate. He'd give us a wave. It was just dry sense of humour. For some of the characters you're in the classroom with, but some of the characters who are teaching you. Mr. Carver, Mr. Hamilton making you do press-ups. You talk about Mr. Tucker.
Tux.
I told some jokes recently that he shared with us. A lot of people that are part of the fabric that are very giving, that make it what it is, that might not get recognised for the contribution they make, but everyone contributes there a little bit. All the small parts become a big whole, don't they? So.
It is quite a surreal experience bumping into a teacher outside of school. Particularly as you get older, it's a bit more palatable. But when you first leave, you're kind of just like, oh, this is different. This is weird. But I think back to I think of the phenomenal. I had Buck Anderson was my PE teacher.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I think one time All Black, Baby Black. He was in the Baby Blacks in '86.
He was our first 15 coach, right?
Yeah, and he was
2000.
Waikato rugby legend, and then he went on to work at New Zealand Rugby, and I crossed paths with him through another job ages later, and it's always an interesting. I kind of thought, he probably doesn't remember me, or maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But there's such a warmth to it, to that, and I accept it's not the same for everybody. I do get that, but for the most part, if you do bump into someone that did teach you, they're usually pretty welcoming and pretty warm to the fact that you remember them. And the fact that they had an impact on you, I think, as well, is quite interesting.
Yeah, if you think it's a big part of your life when you're here for 5 years, imagine being a teacher here for 25.
I was thinking that when Tucker retired last year.
Yeah.
I just thought, shit, how many boys have been through that classroom, have heard those jokes?
The same jokes. My son's heard the jokes you heard.
Yeah. He's probably heard the 2020 version, not the 99 version. It's not worth going back to.
Yeah, and then you throw the boarding house on top of that. Like, I spent some time in Argyle House, and you're living with your teachers, And I hated Murray McKenzie. Like, he was housemaster, and but all of us did. But he had to be the boss, Yeah. Like, I don't know how many kids we had in that, like 100 plus, maybe.
Yeah, it's like 130 now.
So it must have been close to 100 boys, all living basically flatting together. And you have to be strict, otherwise we would have just run amok. We run amok anyway. We got up to all sorts of antics. I won't spill the beans too much, but the bread truck used to leave his door open when he'd load up the bread. So we'd wake up, set the alarms middle of the night, sneak around and pinch a loaf or two, and then break into the common room, make some toasties in the middle of the night. But it's that that whole connection thing that school kind of brings. That's what it is for me, and it's so easy to kind of forget about that. And when you get out into the real world, you don't always have that in your work environments either. Like, I was lucky because I played a sport, and so you get that. But I see a lot of my mates that haven't had that chance, and then you get back at a foundation dinner, and it's like they long for that. Like, they just that interpersonal, connection where you can share jokes, you can just really relax and be yourself. And if you're working in corporate and whatever it is, you can't just be that clown like you were sort of Monday to Friday while you're at school. So it's good, those connections and bringing people back together is what it's all about.
I do wonder what it's going to be like for the next, I feel like watching the boys that leave now and who have left over the last 5 or 6 years, I feel like they're leaving such a strong school that their connection is stronger immediately. I don't know. It's hard to kind of measure, but obviously I've got my own sons, but definitely they are boys high, and I feel like, yes, they go away from it. Their mates have they've all maintained their boys high mates, but I just feel like they were part of something that was but they will come and watch. My boys don't play rugby, but they'll come and watch the rugby games. They'll go and watch hockey. They'll be involved in the arts. They'll go and watch what's happening at the school. They really buy into what they're hearing from the school. They're happy to hear, from any department in the school. And I just think that's going to be there's a different vibe from the young men leaving now. They also know about us, which I think is a difference. They're at our dinners, they are serving, or they're helping out, the top 6 or the prefects are helping with that sort of thing. Sports guys are helping at fundraisers. So, they know about us. They're already connected before they walk out the gate, and we're talking to them about what it means to be an old boy. So that's exciting, I think, looking at what that's going to look like. Yeah. Grabbing them before they leave.
And easier to get them back in when they're aware of it, right? I wasn't even aware that it was a thing until I was asked to speak, Then it's like immediately sparked my interest. Because I suppose I've always been really big in terms of the way I was brought up was to give to those that are given to you. In terms of, and the school gave me so many opportunities, and I've always, I guess that's why I came back and helped out with the rugby, immediately when I kind of left school. I also kind of wasn't ready to go either. I really enjoyed my time here, so I was like, should I do second year semi form? But there was no point, But it was, but I still thought about it. Like, I literally thought about it because I was going to write Marty Cup. And then Glenn Ross talked to me. He's like, you're stupid. You don't need to do that. Like, there's no point
got other
in doing
options.
that. Yeah.
Turns out he might have been right.
Yeah, he was right. He was also the manager for the Waikato Chiefs
he
at the time, so
he
might have had some inside knowledge.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't really touched on in our notes here?
Well, we've got the dinner, but we've always got. We're about to launch a gully campaign. I mean, the one message would be to connect with us on our social media, through LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, because that's where we're sharing stuff. Obviously, always available via email and phone, making a phone call or a text. But hooking up with us through social media is the way to keep on track what we're doing daily. It'll give you all the links as to where you can make some contributions or donations, and we're open to hearing from any old boys who've got something to offer back to the community.
The one thing I did that did spark my interest was when Dan Carter did his kickathon, his 24-hour kickathon up at Eden Park, and the boys
grabbed hold of that as an idea.
How did Hamilton boys get involved in that at Eden Park? Because they ended up being the ball boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep, they were boys high students from Hamilton, and it was well known too. They made it,
and then they ended up doing it here, right? So they ended up pushing replay and doing it themselves as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I thought you were suggesting that you were going to do it.
Well, no, it sparked my interest to do something.
I don't know if your coins would hold up for that, would they?
Nah, not kicking. No, it wouldn't be kicking. But I did the 30 and 5 challenge for the Water Boy, and just that kind of thing, yeah, it sparks my interest to be able to find something that we can do here.
Just a point of difference.
Yeah, just to, again, spread the. So if you got any ideas, flick them through. Yeah, but we'll think on that. I'll be keen to do something hard.
Rowathon. Too hard.
Too hard.
Those seats on those Ubers are quite little, eh?
Yeah,
I was thinking actually on the river.
Yeah, on the river.
Ah.
No, I guess is there anything we kind of want to leave it with, right? Anything in your notes that we haven't?
A lot of crosses on there.
Yeah,
Covered most of it off.
covered most. Surely you got something left there? No.
Doing the haka in the shower for at least a decade after you leave school.
Oh, yeah. Is there any avenue to learn the new one?
Well, yeah. Hey,
Because I only got Tokatoa in my repertoire,
Same.
but there's
Waikato, tani whānau.
yeah. I watched the one on. I watched the one that they did for the Māori All Blacks, which was phenomenal. And I just don't know, and I don't.
It's
know
got a
that
bit
one.
of the old school one.
Yeah,
It does.
the second half of it.
Yeah, swimming sport's still awesome. Like the haka
I
comp,
feel like-
that's my favourite.
I feel like your memory of swimming sports is totally different to what it was really like.
Oh, the haka comp though.
yeah.
That's
Hey,
huge.
So just like tip for the listeners, so inter-house competition, Hamilton Boys High, what have we got? There's athletics day, swimming sport.
There's heaps. There's
There's
heaps.
heaps. There's so many.
Basketball, I saw.
Yeah.
House singing.
debates,
Singing?
house singing, like basic. Oh, and
There's more houses than here.
yeah,
than when
so
I was.
yeah,
Steel
when you
and
can,
Argyle.
yeah,
Are they the new ones? Are they?
Yeah, they're not OG ones.
yeah, and then
Page and tape.
yeah. So my two memories of inter-house competitions was the relay that we used to do on athletics day.
Yeah.
where you had to have a certain amount of 100-meter runners, 200, 400, 800. And you could run in any order, so no one knew who was winning until the last.
for
They still
real?
do it.
How God, I don't know.
If they don't, they
don't
need to
know.
bring it back.
How many teachers pulled a hammy in those,
Yeah.
in those as well?
But it was
That
amazing.
sounds brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing because it was such a tactic. Because you had to decide where your 800-meter runner was going to run, where your 400. Yeah, I think maybe 4 200-meter runners, 6 100-meter runners, a 400-meter runner,
love
an
that.
800-meter runner, in your team for your house, and you had to have a certain amount of juniors and intermediate runners. You couldn't just stack it full of seniors. Yeah. And it was wicked because you never knew who was leading until the last person got the better. Yeah. So the drama and
classic.
suspense of it, and it used to go on for a while, so the chants and the huckers would be going. But then you've got swimming sports, and the haka competition, which is held on swimming sports, is worth as much points as winning the whole swimming sports or athletics day. That was my memory of it. And it was
Can old boys come back to
wicked.
that?
Yeah.
Surely.
Any events inside the school for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we need an old boys.
It probably didn't happen this year because of COVID, right? I think I
Yeah,
saw
and-
something
and
go up
pared
about
back
only
versions. Just the competitive. It's not the. You miss a treat when you don't get to go to the athletic sports, because I remember going the first time and just watching like sort of the whole of Beijing just run through the long jump, but it was literally like they were half a metre behind each other, and it was a point, right? So
Oh, yeah.
you get a point for the event, I guess. And so I was like, I don't know if there was any jumping, but
Yeah.
like all the non-competitive kids
Characters
just
you're
like,
talking about, eh?
just running
Yeah.
around in a circle. Just,
Still my
okay, that's
gig.
300 points.
If I come across a road cone, I just pick it up and be like,
Excuse me, could all those boys on the high jump mats please make your way back to your house area? I'd like to thank all those parents for showing up today.
and that's the last one. Mr. Mongo's going to be closing the canteen. And the
There it
swimming
is.
sports, it verged on feral sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you in the terraces at Eden Park. Like,
Yeah, it was-
Yeah.
apple cores going over.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but that was all
There's some
part of the
questionable chants
fun. yeah.
when I was there.
Yeah, because you would have been there the first year Steele came in, eh? And Greg Wells was
Yes.
head boy.
Yep.
Was he head boy that year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was head of house for Steel House. And he did the who's got buns of steel chant, and he was standing up there in his Speedos in front of the whole school.
Nice.
He became the courier driver. Yeah, he did. So after you left, when we used to sit there, Wellesley used to pull up in the courier van. And we used to clap at him like you guys used to, just because you guys did it.
For the last year of school, we did a guard of honour photo see.
times.
Well done.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
Good. It's been enjoyable. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for the challenge. We'll think of something.
Like the idea of that.
You run a Real Tales with Sweens Boys High series. Get a few. Old
Yeah.
boys
Oh,
on
I'd
there.
love that. Yeah.
I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
Especially off the back of this, like to be able to talk to, you know, a vast array of people that and their connection into the school, their memories, good and bad.
Yeah, fully.
Because
It's all part of it.
it's not all good. It's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're out there and spark some interest, then reach out. Sweet.
Well done.